My name's Chris.
And I'm just going to be so rude off the bat because Jesus Christ, that technical is bluer than my mouth at sundown. It's just...
And this is the Washing Up Podcast. Look, we're going to give you the warning straight up, and it's not our fault for once.
No!
When we get to the technical, you might want delicate ears to, turn away. It gets a bit blue.
We know this is not a safe for work podcast, and we know that I have no filter. But even I'm just going, oh, this is too much. There's a line, and that's, no, I like this. Let's keep going. Oh, yeah. Keep going! Yes, dock away! Dock away!
Yeah, docking became a hot topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. A lot of things became a hot topic of conversation, but we'll save that until we get to the blue zone, as we're going to sort of
because it's going to be the centerfold. You know, the sealed section of this Cleo magazine.
It really is the centerfold of this Cleo, isn't it?
Yeah, so stay tuned for 25 hot tips on how to keep your bakes interesting, you know.
I mean, look, we did open up, and look, it's Fruit and Veg week, which is just another word for, most weeks, because most weeks have fruit in them.
Yes.
Or some form of veg.
Exclusive.
But you've got 10 weeks to fill. But here's the thing.
How many fruit and veg can you fit in your mouth?
That's another one of the Cleo folder. Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the interesting part.
What?
Right. I was not vaguely excited by the concept of Fruit and Veg Week. And I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to sit here and go, I was really looking forward to this. Bullshit. Like the bakers, Fruit and Veg Week just sounded like a shitty concept. I was ridiculously pleasantly surprised.
Yes. I'm like, fruit and veg. Like, I've just reverted back to my 4-year-old self, where my mum would blend up my vegetables that I didn't eat into a chocolate milkshake. Well, and I'd drink it like an idiot.
I mean, there were lots of people on Twitter tonight. Austin, I'm looking at you in particular, going, "No, I want chocolate. I don't want fruit and veg. This is useless. This is pointless." But I really ended up enjoying.
Yes, this was a return to form, and I loved it start to finish. It was. And particularly the middle. The middle was
very much your...
dizzying heights and...
Creamy middle.
creamy centres there.
So, the signature... Before we get to that, two things. One, the food pyramid idea I thought was really cool at the start with adding...
Yes, the fruit and the cake together.
Fruit and cake, why not? Secondly... Obviously, again, Mel and Claire have both been nailing it. I'm going to give a bit of a shout out to Mel's look this week. I thought it was absolutely bang on.
Oh, she's always looking good. Her hair, the colouring, gorgeous.
Yes.
And Claire's and Maggie's earrings. Like, I kept having to look and going, are they slices of orange or like orange peel? Because they just look so.
And Matt even had his best vest on.
He did. I'm looking at Matt going, I could style my dad like Matt. Not that my dad would care.
You did actually have that conversation.
Yeah.
You were like, I could style my father like that.
My dad's also a balding older gentleman.
So, we started with 24 savoury vegetable tartlets.
Mm-hmm. Also single, ladies. Single but not ready to mingle. That's why he lives out in the middle of nowhere.
So, 2 types of vegetable tartlets to stop auctioning your father for a moment.
The Kristie, that's one tartlet. That was me at 18, the tartlet.
Tartlet. Not a girl, not yet a woman.
Yes.
The words of Brittany.
Not a full-fledged tart. Just a tartlet.
Tart in training. Tartlet. Yes. Now, what I liked about this, first of all, is that they told them they had to do 2 different things. Secondly, they did specify in the brief, the pastry must be flaky. Thank you for doing that. We've been asking for it for weeks.
Yep.
If you want flaky pastry... You got to tell everyone you want flaky pastry. Now, I would talk a little bit more about the pastry, but how can I start when Jaywin goes, look at my eggplant, and reaches into the basket and just produces... And again, the look on his face was like, I know where we're going. We all know where I'm going.
I feel it was the concept art for the new Women's Network together by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, was it Jaywin introducing a bake? Was it the Women's Network?
Who knows? The colours were the same, as were the shapes.
As was the level of innuendo. So, Ella decided to branch out a bit by doing 2 different types of pastry completely.
Great.
So not just 2 types of tartlets, but 2 different types of pastry, which... can be a bit of a risk, obviously, because if you do one, it's a lot more it's a lot easier to make sure that you have consistency.
Yep.
2, if it goes really well, obviously you come out of it looking amazing. Mm-hmm. So you're betting on yourself a lot there. Which,
but it's good. She pushed herself, and at this time, when we're...
You used the trope.
Oh, damn it. I thought I was just going to slip it in without anyone noticing, but we're just all keen. It's like a hero.
It was on the drinking game card.
Yeah, true.
I put it on the drink... By the way, they didn't actually say it, but I put it on the drinking game card. They got close. It is the push it moment.
Yes. So, no, what I was going to say, this is the time. We're top 5,
Look,
top 6.
Gotta
move, hustle.
Look, a lot of people can look negatively on confidence. And we talk a lot about you never want to say this is my week. Mm-hmm. But that's more that the Bakeoff gods.
Hubris.
That's hubris and the Bakeoff gods. I can't fault Ella this week for backing herself. She, at one point tonight, and there were a couple of points where Mel went around and mischievously was trying to get people to go, I'm going to be in the grand final. And Jaywin wouldn't take the bait, and Jaywin's like, it's an honour to be here, and I hope, but I'm not going to get too far ahead. And they turn around to Ella and they go, you see yourself in the grand final? And Ella's like, yes, I do. And you're in the quarterfinals. If you don't see yourself in the final, what are you doing here?
Yep, and the thing is, it's not false, like that's not false confidence, or I think what would have sat incorrectly with Ella was false humility. And this wasn't a brag either. Like, it wasn't coming from, like, a cocky place. It was just kind of like, no, I know I'm doing good.
Tonight's her 4th technical win. Like, she's Star Baker for the 2nd time and her 4th technical win.
Yep.
Ella's just sitting there going, of course I expect to be in the grand final. Look at where I am.
Yep.
So I 100% back that confidence tonight. Mm-hmm. Hoda. Now, Hoda decided to go with 2 different ones. She went with spanakopita.
Yep. And
then she went with a goat cheese mousse with a beetroot tartlet. Now
that's a choice for usually for every single formal entree, isn't it? Like you 12 formal entree. Oh, I think we'll do the goat's cheese and beetroots.
Bit of goat's cheese,
and then the vegetarians like it. Not so much the vegans.
No, not for vegans. For vegans,
not
we've
for
got
vegans.
Some meat. But in terms of this, so this was the only thing that was almost controversial here was they went straight up because Hoda said, I'm going to cook them for about 20 minutes. And Matt and Maggie went, look, beetroot, it needs longer.
I think what Hoda didn't clarify with them, I'm slicing it thin and then cooking it for 20 minutes?
No, that's still right, because it's the time it takes to break it down to the point we're on the tartlet. Because remember, you don't want it chewy. But it nearly got controversial because I'm like, oh, God, here we go. They're openly helping again.
The root,
Cut to every other baker.
Yes.
And at least consistency, they showed the support. Now, we've said before, they usually do give them tips as they go. Mm-hmm. But it's about the consistency of showing it. So what I appreciated tonight was they showed it.
Absolutely. So we were not in doubt about who was getting support and who wasn't. It was quite fair. And I actually like that because we're getting a chance, we know Matt and Maggie are quite proficient. I mean, they don't get to where they are without being bloody skilled individuals. But it's nice because they give a little tip. And if you're not like a baker or, watch a lot of cooking shows, there's always going to be something new to learn anyway. So, having someone of that caliber sharing their little tips and ideas, good to know.
No, it's amazingly cool. So,
but I assume Hoda was like slicing up the beetroot before she cooked it rather than the whole cook it inside its jacket and then...
Yeah, I think so. So, Nerman.
Yes.
So, Nerman had his 2. Now, obviously, there were 2 different types. So, first of all, he went with the onion tartatan. They looked incredible.
Now, pro tip, speaking of tips and tricks.
Because Nerman crying was on the game card tonight. Nerman's tears was a square on the game card tonight.
And it wasn't emotion so much as physical...
Onion.
Pro tip, when you're cutting onion, and it's a bit harder when you got I think it's the white onions get quite pungent.
Yes, pungent.
But leave the roots on. So cut around everything, cut all your onion up, but leave the root on. Don't chop that off, because that's where your problem lies. And then when you want to get rid of the smell, rub your hands on some stainless steel.
Yep.
That and garlic.
That's one of the things I learnt, when we started seeing each other was that. Because you're like, chop the onion. I'm like, my hands smell like onion. And you're like, the tap's over there. It's still just use your hands on the tap.
Just pretend that you're giving the tap a happy time, and maybe you'll lose the smell and gain some cream. I don't know. A happy little water spurt.
Anyway, the second one he did now they got really stuck into Aaron, and we'll get to Aaron in a moment, where they were talking about his avo. I thought that Nerman's tartlet, I referred to it as the Sydney starter tart. It was wasabi with avocado and kale.
Oh yeah, that is so like Surrey Hills or Darlinghurst.
It's very Darlinghurst.
We might even go to East Redfern for that,
But...
a little bit of that kind of Sonoma action.
And again, it's the wasabi with the avo and then the kale on top.
Oh, it's the kale.
It's the addition of the kale.
That pushes it further east, that kale. Maybe a little to the north, but, it's too crazy for the north, I think. With the wasabi might be too hot for the white people.
See, I figured that Aaron's was far more Melbourne Lane way. So Aaron was making his brunch, and it was smashed avo vol au vents. And then he did a caramelised onion topped with a hash brown. And that's where he did his joke about being a millennial and, it's better than home ownership.
Look, I think you're right with the laneway feel because it's the hash brown. That's what differentiates it from in a West, where you don't want any carbs anywhere near your face because,
No, carbs on carbs is not a good idea with that one. The carbs on carbs is wonderful for Aaron's.
How will I go at F45 or bloody fitness first if I'm doing that?
I delighted, and I messaged you this the other day, but I delighted. I walked past the, F45 fitness centre on my way to Johnny Big to buy a suit in a larger size. And I felt fantastic about that, by the way.
Yes. Well, having returned to the gym tonight to do some hydrotherapy for my bloody back muscles. Oh, my God. Like, we're back in the full swing gym. So, like, none of this kind of, like, in the holiday mode where no one's around. We are back to peak, the buff fit people who have invested serious cash into their gym outfit that still looks like it's, 6 years old and just casually on the, you know what I mean? Like that kind of look of between, it's expensive, but it's not. And just
see, this
the
is
conversations that go on out the front of the gym and people wearing this while they're vaping, which I think is hilarious, that they've just gone and done all this healthy stuff. And you can tell these are people like drinking their protein smoothies and stuff. And look, I've got no issues with people looking after themselves and their bodies and stuff. But they'll give me a filthy look, the big fatty walking by in my swimsuit because I give no fucks. But then they're out the front vaping. It's like, just respect each other. We're not perfect human beings.
No.
And my body's fucking brilliant.
Exactly.
Except for my back muscles.
Except for your back muscles at the moment, but that's a whole other story. Now, Ella was using multi-mushrooms. Wasn't just one multi-mushroom.
Like Lulu Corbin.
And I love this one. That was where Claire stuck her head in and grabbed the corsage.
Yes. I think that was a lion's beard mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
learning about mushrooms.
And then she's like, yes, maybe something for Mel's bed. Now, Jaywin was, of course, making banh mi.
Because when you're going to make a little tartlet, why not make it a banh mi?
And again, this is the first of many Jaywin puns. Mm-hmm. Where he said, if I do it badly, the tarts will be trying to ban me from baking. Oh, fathers right now are standing and applauding.
Yes.
Actually, no, they're not applauding because, they don't want to show any form of acknowledgement of joy. But, fathers around the world, they're giving a light nod of approval with
I'm giving him approval. We do live in the house of puns, and he's like, I think he's our neighbour.
He really is. He's in the Villa of Puns.
The Villa of Puns, yes.
Next to the House of Pun. So the banh mi with the pâté and veggie flowers. Mm-hmm. And then also the other one was the black tea pastry with the miso roasted eggplant and shiitake mushrooms.
I would never have thought to just eat black tea as like an additive. Because, like when you're growing up, you don't want tea leaves in your cup. Remember the olden days of having to wait for the tea to settle?
Yes.
Yes.
But I loved that, again, they gave more advice. This time they were about the...
You know what we don't have around these days much more? The metal kind of aluminium, it's bad for you, but it's just got a certain like that teapot, the old teapot that somehow...
I was wondering where you were going for that. I thought you were about to say aluminium pills.
I think it was like an aluminium metal that my aunt had with a copper top. You remember those ones? That was just like...
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think the tea tasted better out of them. Just saying.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the advice they gave, which was about the higher heat and trying to dry everything out for the pate. It was really good advice they gave.
And, I just think it takes balls to serve Maggie Beer pate.
It really does.
To create pate in front of Maggie Beer, she of the Maggie Beer Pheasant Farm pates, and to serve it up to be judged.
It's a bold strategy, I'll give you that much.
Yes.
So, a couple of things here. First of all, we need to have a bit of a chat because, my heart sang because we got a bunch of vol au vent. Yes. And, if there's one thing I'm a bandit for...
You love good vol au vent.
I'm a bandit for a vol au vent.
Yeah.
I've talked about this many, many, many times on the podcast. I'm a bandit for a good salmon vol au vent in particular. I know you hate them. I don't... Look, you know me. This is funny. You eat tuna.
Yes.
I do not. I can't stand it.
Yeah, but you like salmon.
I think it's repugnant. Salmon, I love.
I like salmon sashimi. Like your fresh bloody salmon. You serve that stuff up. I will down that like it's going out. But I think it's the cooked salmon that just doesn't. I have to be in the mood, and I will never be in the mood for it in a vol au vent. But that said, a lot of the times I'll do references to my upbringing, and that there were certain meals on rotation, and one specific meal that was on rotation was chicken and mushroom vol au vent.
It's usually using a can of cream of mushroom soup.
Yeah, my mum's love of cream of mushroom soup.
She could fit cream of mushroom soup into anything.
So Chris got inducted into our family early on when, for my younger sister's birthday, she requested Mum make her chicken stroganoff.
I still don't know why.
Now, paprika optional or non-existent, and just cream of mushroom soup surrounding the chicken.
I'm not joking.
Yes.
We went through a McDonald's drive-thru on the way home because I couldn't.
We did, because the rice was also a bit special.
I still, to this day, do not know why she requested it.
Okay, so my younger sister has very different tastes in food, obviously.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. It was like the time she tried to cook a stir fry for a friend of hers once. It wasn't even a date, she was just cooking dinner. And I'm like, just dice up the vegetables into bite-sized pieces. She goes, is this right? And they were literally tiny little half-centimetre squares. She's a Virgo. It was perfectly, her mise en place there was just beautiful. I think every French dish I've gone, that'd make a really good senchoy bao. Because it was tiny.
So,
tiny.
We get to Ella, who is doing her heartlets vol au vents, which were full of the mushroom duxelle. We've had a lot of mushroom duxelle this year, haven't we?
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I like mushroom duxelle.
No, mushroom duxelle are delicious.
And eggplant as well. So,
because Jaywood wasn't.
No, not enough eggplant. Ella also had to take control of that. Now,
it was good to see eggplant represented in all shapes and sizes.
And I love this because that was where she said...
all eggplants are good eggplants.
Because that was where she said that she could see herself in the grand final, and what I loved was Mel going, you know what? So do I. And I'm really happy that Mel sees herself in the grand final because I'm a little bit worried about Mel possibly not making it.
Look, it was my hope that she'd get this far, and really, pushing herself to get.
She's
to the
defying the odds.
So, her and Claire neck and neck all the way to the end.
Shane Jacobson standing outside going, "I want a second chance. I really want a second chance."
Well, Rebel Wilson, I'm sure, was snooping around there because they filmed the doghouse.
Oh yeah, it's very similar. Yeah. No, that stupid dog show. Yeah, they borrowed the concept.
Was it Best in Show? Or was it?
No, it was Rebel Wilson presents
Doghouse?
Dogs Been in a Bakeoff Shed.
Poochie Poochness?
Poochie Poo. So, Hoda also announced loudly at this point that she has no spares. So if she got it wrong, she was screwed.
Oh, the other thing I liked about Hoda was her teaching Maggie and Matt her
the Portuguese thing.
Portuguese way, and that makes so much sense. You're still getting the layers, you're just rolling it up.
So
fold when you can roll. It's like, we've got book binders, or you've got scrolls. You just roll up the scroll, or you fold the pages.
Okay, so can I point out that I love that you've just equated it to people have a decision to make, bookbinders or scrolls.
Yes.
In this day and age,
Look.
And I know, Miss, I'm in the pagan community.
No.
Scrolls are a thing.
No, I'm thinking more about the impending climate disaster that's coming and what we'll have access to. And I'm not thinking that binding books is going to be possible. I think we will be reverting to some scroll work if we're lucky, or it's back to the cuneiform tablets.
So your main concern with climate disaster
Is how will we get the written word?
Is the return to scrolls or the push back to cuneiform?
Look, either way, I'm happy with it as long as Ben Aronovich, keeps writing, and Paula Braxton and a few of my other favourite authors keep writing in whatever way they can.
How can you get Streets of London on the cuneiform tablets?
Rivers of London.
Rivers of London.
Yes. Oh, look, if he can't, then is he even trying? And I know Ben Aronovich, I'm sure he will try, and try very hard, and succeed.
Anyway.
Back at the Bakeoff shed.
15-minute time call is... I'm going to put it out there for anyone listening to this podcast who is very good at the gifts. Leah, looking at your...
You know who we do need to learn the cuneiform? Fucking George R.R. Martin. Like, that bastard. Is he going to do a Terry Pratchett and die before he finishes Game of Thrones? Come on, Georgie. Just help us out,
Anyway, Leah, I'm looking in your direction.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Leah.
Gifts.
Giffer.
The 15-minute time call.
A GIF.
I require the Aaron look to camera.
Don't we all?
Which is horror, fear, a little bit of excitement. All rolled into one. It is his horror moment, like he is the heroine in the movie. Now, at this point, his hash brown also wasn't cooperating. It did get there.
Nothing more frustrating than an uncooperative
hash brown. Now, it did cooperate in the end, but it got very close to not cooperating. The only problem for poor Aaron was, as they got to the 3, 2, 1, he still had one tray.
Oof.
Like he had one on the board and one on the tray. So the judging, Ella, they said the pastry was exceptional. The mushrooms, however, were a little bit under-seasoned, but they thought that the eggplant was also excellent. Nerman, they said they looked very inviting. Matt and Maggie loved their flavour combinations. The kale tarts cut perfectly, and Matt pointed out that it was that little bit of extra that he'd asked for last week that Nerman had given him in terms of the bake. Remember he said last week that his pastry was slightly needed to be pushed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that he'd actually done it.
There we go. 2 more pushes for you. 3.
Anyway. Aaron, the layers on the pastry were great. The sumac on top of that they really liked. They thought the sumac was a good addition.
Yeah, the sumac and sumac.
Teardrops on the pillows. Now the millennial breakfast ones looked a bit messy. Matt didn't like carb on carb.
No.
Maggie did.
You can tell who's from Eastern Suburbs Sydney, can't you? I'm sure he is.
Maggie did, but she wanted half the pastry and double the fillings.
It's because she's from Adelaide and they're not scared.
Yeah, but she still wanted more filling.
She's going to have a carb. She wants it loaded.
Jaywin.
Fully loaded carbs. Yes.
Now, they said that the shiitake looked raw, and he went, well, yeah, I didn't really cook them. And they're like, yeah, but raw shiitake is chewy. And when poor Maggie tried to bite into it, like, she just took all the mushroom with her.
This is the second week where Maggie's dental work has come under
Maggie's
threat.
Maggie's having some issues with the dental work at the moment. So it was too chewy. The pastry was really good. Maggie also sort of hit him with the damning with faint praise when she said that the pate was better than expected.
Okay, yeah, because they were worried he was going to overcook the livers.
But they did
and
say...
as we all know, you've got to save the liver.
Now, they did say that it needed more seasoning.
Don't stress this enough.
Did say it needed more seasoning, and Matt wasn't getting the banh mi flavour. He wanted them to use a bit of pickling liquid to get that there. Hoda, they loved the goat's cheese and beetroot, and they thought the layers on the second one were great. But Matt was like, oh, I want more filling because it's so good. And Hoda was taking it as a, yay, Matt loves them. But if you listen, what Matt is actually saying to you is, you've underfilled them.
Yes.
Like, the filling's good, but what Matt was actually saying in a very nice way was, these aren't filled properly. Yes. You need to put more in there.
Sorry, my mind just wandered, right? So
no,
Matt and
I'm shocked.
I know.
I am, as we've all listened to in this first challenge, we are shocked and appalled by this turn of events. Go on.
Okay, so Matt and Maggie, quite surprised by the concept of a pull apart. Like, it's obvious they've never shopped you know, at certain lower grade. But they know a banh mi, you know, like that's your Vietnamese hot bread shop specials, you know, that's $5.50 of gloriousness on a budget.
If you think they're spending $5.50 on their banh mi, you are undervaluing the banh mi they're buying.
Yeah, and I assume that it's fancy, like nothing less than a Luke Nguyen. Like, he has...
If Luke Nguyen hasn't gone on 4 or 5 different food safaris, what's the point?
Exactly, and I assume, you know, he's gone, no, here's a gold encrusted banh mi bun with like carrots that were grown by a specific, you know, fancy pants Buddhist monk.
That's exactly how
in Vietnam.
It's Gok Wan.
Yeah,
Gok Wan. It's Wok Wan. Yeah, Wok Wan with her fancy. You know, she stopped doing the fermented stuff that's gone for generations. Yep. She's swapped over to banh mi.
Yeah, the livers of like geese that lived in Windsor Castle.
The livers of geese is the next book in the Rivers of London series. Anyway,
livers of geese. Yeah,
the technical. I didn't expect much out of this technical. I have to say, I came out of this technical going, that's one of the best technicals they've done. The Erebizone pie.
Oh, yum. It looks so good.
So the Maggie instructions were, give it a squeeze and be flaky.
Well,
as they walked off to play spin the bottle.
By give it a squeeze and be flaky, I think she was really saying, hey, let's go to Innuendo Town.
It is now time for your blue warning, ladies and gentlemen. Blue warning. The blue warning has been issued. It is a Category 5 blue warning.
Yes, Roxanne, it is time to turn on that red light.
Yes.
Because we are entering the blue zone.
We are definitely in the blue zone. It gets a little blue. And by a little blue, we mean the sealed section is unzipped, ladies and gentlemen. You can hear of the top ticks and top tips, either or. You can hear all about...
Probably the top tips.
Yeah, you can hear all about it as we talk about chard. Or shard, as Hoda kept calling it for some reason.
Don't shard yourself.
She kept calling it shard. It's chard. And you know, they were all complaining about the amount of... So we're not using normal spinach, we're using fancy spinach.
But technically, kale is a weed, isn't it? Like,
yes.
That's low grade... You know, I'm sure it's the stuff that your dad would just go, oh, that was just growing everywhere, you know?
Yeah, he would. And look...
We just rip it up and chuck it out because it wasn't considered a real vegetable in my day.
Let's get the kale conversation out there right now. It was all over Twitter tonight. We were all comparing it. Now, we know that, you know, friend of the show, friend in general, obviously, Gabby, got to regale the world tonight on Twitter.
Regale with kale?
With her kale stories. Because as we know... Yes. If you give Gabby 5 minutes to talk about kale, it's an hour.
I was going to say it's an hour.
And we love you, Gabby, but you know it's true. And sure enough, she regaled the audience with long tales of all the different things she puts kale in.
Kale tales.
Kale tales, definitely kale tales. Whereas, again, my only kale tale is that thank you to Cheryl from Bakeoff Season 2.
Yep.
The best bit of advice I ever got is just cover it in some olive oil, put some chili on it, put some garlic on it, put it in the oven, let it go crispy, pull it out.
Pulling out is the word here.
Well, we're about to talk about a bunch of other things.
I just have to say, leafy greens are not my friend.
No, they're not. More for me.
It is more for you, and it's a shame because I bloody love them.
But they don't love you.
They do not love me.
No. In the words of human nature, they don't love you, no. But they don't want anyone else to have you. Anyway... Now, I love that Aaron decided to try to translate the Italian, and his translation was herb something. This is, of course, you know, the master of languages we saw from French Week, Aaron.
Yes. Look, at least get your, accent right. Go, herb something.
Herb something.
Oh, that's more...
Sorry, Bruno.
Sorry. Apologies, Bruno.
Oh, God. Sorry, Bruno. Now, Jaywin actually decided to do something unusual for this challenge and decided to read the recipe.
Whoa, craziness.
He's like, I'm going to take some time to read the recipe. Now, whereas Hoda decided to channel Top Gear by asking the audience, how hard can it be? Much like Top Gear's...
to the wind.
Much like Top Gear's audience, she was about to find out. Now, the trick with this is that we went with a Maggie beer staple. Of course, I am referring to Maggie Beer's sour cream pastry.
Yep.
Which is, again, if you've ever seen anything Maggie Beer does, she loves the sour cream pastry.
And look, the good reason for it. It comes out beautifully crumbly. Like, that's what I love about that kind of pastry.
Now, the joy, of course, in that, as she says,
crumbles.
as she said, there's a bunch of different pressure points in there. The first thing you need to remember about it is the only actual liquid that's being used, the only moisture that's being used is sour cream. Everything else has to be chilled. So the butter has to be very, very, very chilled.
Yep.
The pastry should be chilled as it goes. And as they said when they were talking about it and going, what are the pressure points? Maggie's like, if the dough is not right, it's going to get incredibly sticky, incredibly fast.
Look, I just feel that people needed to pay more attention to the butter and helping it relax, just to chill out. You know, like where just some whale songs in the background, just a little massage of the butter. Just maybe give it a salt float.
I mean, look. If anyone was going to be able to do that, Aaron is probably the most chilled person in there, and surely Aaron could have had a bit of a word with it. But Maggie then also started the innuendo fest by saying you needed to make sure that you scored it. That's right, you needed, in her words, pricks on the bottom and pricks on the top. Now,
and that was Mardi Gras last weekend.
I was going to say pricks on the bottom and pricks on the top. That's a lot of prick work.
That's a lot of pricks, and that's an after party, you know?
Pricks on the bottom and pricks on the top sounds like a really good description of misogyny.
It's the Liberal Party slogan, isn't it?
It kind of is. Pricks on the bottom, pricks on the top. It was just the start, ladies and gentlemen. It was just the start. But we cut to Nerman, who admitted what we talked about last week, that he does not follow directions on recipes, but that this week he was going to make a concerted effort. And to that I say, Nerman,
well done.
It's about time, man. Well done. I appreciate the fact that you were ticking it off as you went.
Look, I'm just looking at this
Progress.
And I'm thinking, Nerman's likely got a bit of a Aries moon vibe going on. But why do I know this? Because that's me. Who needs a fucking recipe? I'll just give it a burl.
Not important or anything. It's the reason why he doesn't panic in the technical. You go in the technical, everyone's like, how are we following the recipe? And Nerman's like, recipe?
I think he'd be a great doctor, you know. You go along, you're like, oh, I've got this stomach ache. Oh, we'll just take this. What is it? I don't know. Give it a go.
It's Thousand Island dressing. I just scull it.
Just scull it.
Just scull
it. Here, try this sour cream pastry I've learned how to make.
Now, we knew we were in trouble early on.
Belly.
We knew we were in trouble early on when we got Hoda and Jaywin talking about the fact that their pastry was incredibly sticky. And poor Jaywin, as it went on with Jaywin, it got worse. It got so much worse. Hoda's was not great. Jaywin at one point tried to score his pastry and instead was, if you remember in The Simpsons before Homer announces, I'm going to clown college, where he makes the tent out of mashed potato, at one point, Nerman's pie resembled the tent out of mashed potato. And I know that... and again, I know it's a parody of Close Encounters, but I still very much prefer the Simpsons version of it with the clown college. So Jaywin, we cut back to Jaywin just in time for another pun. He goes, I've got shallot to do right now. Now, I'm going to give a lot of credit right now to something that we've previously talked a little bit about, and I have questioned previously mum powers. Yes. And I'm not convinced that mum powers are legitimate. Right? Sorry, Ella, but I'm not. However, tonight is the best example of mum powers in Bakeoff I've ever seen.
Why is that?
Because everybody starts dicing the shallots. And Ella looks around at them all and goes, I don't have time for that. There's a food processor. Puts the shallots in and just hits the button and goes, that looks diced. Cuts the corner significantly. Yep. And I'm looking at it going, that is mum powers. Because you've got the kids over there, you're cooking over there, and you're like, you know what? I don't have time to cut 15 million shallots. Hit the button.
I also feel that comes from the space of confidence. That, she
She
knows
was
what she's
in her
doing.
groove this
she was
week.
in her groove. And she's just going to blitz some shallots.
But it was genuinely brilliant in terms of her time management because everyone else was really stressed about where they were going with the dough.
Mm-hmm.
They were stressed about, the pastry sitting out there and getting a bit soft.
Mm-hmm.
And Ella had so much time up her sleeve that at one point she's looking around going, I don't want to be too far ahead.
She was in a zone. She
Like,
really was.
it was...
Yeah, it was like watching an Olympian athlete.
And look, it ends up...
sour cream pastry.
It literally ends up, for me, being the moment that won her Star Baker.
Yes.
Because, there were only very small differences between her and Nerman by the end. Mm-hmm. But I think that was one of them. Again, the difference in the pies, although they were Nerman came third, hers was first. I think that difference in the pie is probably the difference between Star Baker and not. Mm-hmm. And the reason she got that was that blitzing up of the shallots. So that was absolute genius. I tip my cap to you there,
But that's
Ella.
what's beautiful about that kind of demonstration in a technical is knowing where you can cut some corners and being confident and being able to do that. Reading the recipe and going, okay, I could do that, or this is where I can actually go and use a food processor.
And then we went to Nerman, who was ticking the recipe off. And then Claire came over and talked about Nerman's dance school, basically. And they started their little dancing together. Yeah. And I would love to see them run a dance school.
Oh my gosh, it would be spectacular. I would totally do the interpretive dance class.
I mean, we all know that the Claire's interpretive dance...
post-baking class?
Claire's interpretive dance is next level. Mm. There are people who are amazing at it, and then there's Claire.
Yeah.
And then there's Claire.
So look, why she hasn't had an art centre named after her, where when you go to those art centres and they have a photo, the artsy photos of the dancers from the 1970s, just
I thought you were going to say the photos of the Queen.
Well, she is a queen, It's Claire.
I would like to see an art centre.
Yes.
The Claire Hooper Art Centre.
Yes.
And on the wall, rather than a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, Claire Hooper.
Yeah, but it's you got, I don't know how to explain it, but you go in somewhere to a dance centre and they'll have the blown up photo that's beautifully lit, and there's usually a bit of flowing chiffon, and the dancer in a sweeping motion of some kind, and that's what we can get of Claire from that intro.
Look, I'm gonna sort of suggest, friend of the podcast, and I know you're listening to this, TT. I think True Bella Photography.
Oh yes.
Should get on board with this.
Yeah.
And I think we get some True Bella shots of Claire Hooper because she does a lot of dance school work. Yeah. She does a lot of work with dancers.
Oh yeah.
And if anyone's going to be able to capture the true art of the dance in Claire,
it's going to be TT.
It's going to be TT. So again, I think True Bella Photography. I think there you go.
I think we should all do it.
I agree. So
all the bakers, all the audience, all the hosts and judges.
So Mel was trying to up the mind games.
We'll have an Stedford.
Yes, I think so. So Mel was trying to up the mind games, and she went over to Hoda, and she's like, you were Star Baker last week. So if there's one person who's going to be able to pull off this challenge effectively, and Hoda looks at her and goes, "It's Nerman." I just like the way they did that. I thought that was quite funny. So Jaywin then referred to kale as the devil's spinach. And look, again, apart from crispy kale, he's not wrong. Nerman, however, unsurprisingly, loves kale.
No,
I know. I know.
You know why? He styles his moustache after it, just
it's under the hat.
The twirling. He holds up a piece of kale to the ends of his moustache just to make sure he's getting the correct kind of curvature.
And that image of Nerman twirling his moustache
with kale
ends the classy bit, because the next thing we do, we cut to Nerman, who talks about not having a soggy bottom, and you're like, okay, that's good. That's good, Bakeoff. There we go.
There we go.
Then we cut to Hoda.
Whoa.
Who said, and I am quoting Hoda directly.
Yep.
Nobody likes a sloppy pie if that's what we're making.
Look, I don't think we need to shame anyone who does like a sloppy pie.
I think we can draw a veil.
I'm sure there are people who do appreciate a sloppy pie.
Why don't we
don't need to shame them.
Let's draw a kale veil over the top
over the sloppy pie.
Over the top of sloppy pie. And let's quickly distract everybody with Verjuice, because Verjuice made an appearance, not on the game card this week. I missed a week of Verjuice.
I also spotted some Maggie Beer version olive oil.
I know, they had a lot of Maggie Beer products there.
Yeah.
And then, the weirdest part of all, we got a Star Trek bartender.
In comes the...
Did anybody have quark?
The quark cheese. And, I don't know where a Ferengi... I don't want to know where a Ferengi's cheese come from. I presume it's from behind their ears. They're just...
We're running with behind the ears.
Yes, just giving a bit of a rinse after several weeks of not cleaning behind their ears.
As long as it's from behind their ears, and A, nowhere else, and B, it's not ground up Ferengi. I mean, look, it's a rough life being a bartender on Deep Space Nine.
It's a rough life being a Ferengi woman, from what I understand.
Oh, it's horrific.
I hear that they're treated like slaves. And obviously have to make cheese.
Now, I'd like to go on with this. However, Ella turned around and asked Aaron the question, am I docking? To which Aaron just looked over and went, yeah, that's docking. Aaron? No. No, that's... No.
No, but it makes sense that Aaron might have more of an idea than Ella.
Anyway.
Because Ella is Jewish. And I don't think...
I'm not explaining this. My mother listens.
Okay. Okay. So 2 things, right? Please don't look up docking, and please don't look up felching. But if you do look up the Washing Up Facebook page, this week my lovely friend finally found the photos of me telling my older sister what felching is, and I've been able to upload them on the Washing Up. It's a beautiful triptych.
You can see the moment of what? Oh my God.
And my mum turning around in the background like, ooh, that's different.
Yeah, your mother suddenly got really engaged in the conversation. But yes, the docking conversation follows on from the sloppy pie conversation, which follows on from the soggy bottom conversation.
And you had to dock top and bottom.
Yeah, you had to dock top and bottom.
And I assume it would take a top and a bottom to dock. I mean, you don't have to identify as either. You don't have to have a preference. I just assume... there's a certain surgical procedure that you cannot have had,
and then
to perform that.
And then anyway, Ella turns around and goes, "It was about time for what we called creative chard," and she's like, "I never thought I'd find the part of my life where I'd be sitting here crafting a chard leaf out of pastry, but I'm not unhappy with how my life has gone."
And look, she's quite good at it. Her chard leaf, you knew what it was.
Look, Ella's looked great, like she was making it out of normal pastry. Jaywin's looked more like a pile of mashed potato, as I said before.
Yeah, Hoda's was verging on C&B action.
It was really close. It was the rest of the Women's Network logo.
It was one of the discarded shapes. They went, no, not phallic enough.
Now, normally
penis.
Normally once they put these into the oven, that's the end of the pressure points. No, it turns out. So first of all, Ella decided that she had to dock mid-cook.
She's like, I forgot to dock the top.
Yep. Now, that was the first bit. And it was, I've docked the top. It's all good. Followed by Jaywin turning around to Nerman going, we're not pulling them off the tray. We're just putting the tray on top of the board. And Nerman turns around and goes, what about the baking paper? And you can see everybody else looking at him going, what baking paper? And Nerman suddenly realised that no one else had used baking paper and that he possibly needed to remove it. Now, the internet universally yelled, no, Nerman, don't do it. And you could see the bakers, all of the other bakers in there, it was great. Because Jaywin goes, I want to watch this. And Hoda's going, no, I wouldn't do it. No. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he takes it out, and at one point he's ready to go, and you can hear them all going, no, except for Jaywin, who seems to be cheering him on, going, yeah, do it.
Look, I don't think Nerman strikes me as the kind of man who has a lot to do with pies, sloppy or otherwise. So I'm glad he listened to the advice of others who might be more experienced with pie.
He got very close to it and then went, No, not doing this. No. I've never been happy to, so I'm back away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it did cost him in terms of the bottom of the pie.
Yeah.
But it also saved him because if he tried to pull the pastry away...
Oh, there would be no
the whole
pie.
thing would have collapsed.
It would have been a pie mess. It would have been the aftermath.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, the bacon till golden, and then everyone waited until the last 10 seconds to pull the whole thing out. Mm-hmm. And this is where we got a bit of a conversation as well around the quality of edging. So we went docking, we went pricks on the bottom and pricks on the top, we went sloppy pies, we went soggy bottoms, and we finished at edging.
Look,
it's a journey.
It is a journey, and usually you don't finish with edging. And now your mum's got something else to Google. She's going to learn a lot.
Everyone also waited, just quickly, I've never seen a bake where everyone waits for the last 10 seconds to take it out of the oven. It was 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and then everyone made a mad dash.
Oh, gosh, and there were moments I'm kind of like, someone's going to drop it. Someone's going to have a sweary canary fee moment.
No one managed it.
Thank goodness.
The judging! First of all, they commented the pastry looked flaky on all of them.
Yeah.
Nerman's was golden, but they did notice the paper, which they said meant that it was going to be under on the bottom because the pizza tray that it was on was designed to then give it the cook through. Inside was perfectly seasoned. The top was perfectly crunchy, but a soggy bottom. And again, Nerman was the one who said you don't want a soggy bottom and then ends up with one.
Yeah.
Hoda's was very flat with not a lot of mixture. She also went completely to the edge.
Yeah.
So Ella, they said beautiful edging, fabulous leaf, very good job. I know. They also said it was really good eating and well seasoned. Jaywin, they pointed out that Jaywin had a raw bottom of his bake and it was largely from the raw centre.
Yeah.
Now the greens were really good, but they said the pastry was very poor. And Aaron's looked good with a great pastry leaf. The greens looked outstanding and it ate very well. So in this challenge, you had Jaywin at 5th, Hoda at 4th, Nerman at 3rd, Aaron at 2nd, and Ella wins her 4th technical of the series.
She's a 4-star baker.
She is.
She's technically 4 stars. Might be 5 stars after next week.
Who knows? We'll find out.
She might go 6 stars and suddenly be up there with that Wolgan Valley retreat with all the Emirates people.
She'd go to 7 stars and, just add extra weeks onto a competition.
Go to 9.5 stars and show how energy efficient she is.
Or she could go home next week and end at 4. I mean, either or. So, who knows? All options are on the table. Apparently 4 stars all the way to 9.5. The showstopper.
Yes.
The basket weave cake.
I really like this as a concept.
See, I heard the concept and went, I'm not sure. And then when they did it, I'm like, okay. Now, it was interesting that it was mostly going to be done with buttercream.
Yeah.
And piping. That I thought was interesting. But again, Nerman decides to do something different and sort of saves the concept for me and makes it really cool.
Yeah.
Piping looked good, but it was all the same. Now Matt tried to make the basket weave cake sound like it was a real thing, which I loved. Well,
it is a piping skill, and people will ask for it,
It is, but he made it sound like, most people, this is a regular cake that everyone asks for, and not something that's a Bakeoff
just
staple.
Pop down to the cheesecake shop for your basket weave.
Now, we would get into all the really...
Michelle's Patisserie.
We would get in
basket weave.
We would get into all the fun bits and pieces here. But we do have to acknowledge the fact that Hoda decided that she wanted to, because she was Star Baker last week and she's advanced so far, that it's time to handicap herself by literally trying to remove a finger. Now, now kudos to the Bakeoff filming team, because they didn't actually show graphically her trying to chop the finger off.
No.
But they also couldn't frame around the blood.
No, and the thing is that made it difficult as well. Her nails were like blood red.
Yeah.
Like that bright, freshly oxygenated arterial blood red. And
it matched.
It just matched. So there was a bit of like, oh, is that blood? No, that's her nails. Oh my God, but that's blood. Yeah. There was no getting away from it. I presume Dexter was outside waiting for it.
Quite brutal.
Yeah.
So much so that when she explained to Maggie and Matt what she did, she started and they go, I picked up this knife, and you just saw Maggie go, oh no. So Aaron was going on a picnic. Yeah. So orange and Pim's syrup. This is a Kristie Bake if ever I've heard of one.
You know who does good Pim's? Gabby, friend of the podcast. Yep. She does a brilliant macerated strawberries in the Pim's. It's just go to Gabby's house. She'll just feed you and drink you feed you and give you beverages. She's not a vampire. Nor a spider in disguise.
Anyway, orange, lemon, and berry cake with fresh and candied fruit on top, and there was also meringue in there as well. Yeah. So a few different pressure points there for Aaron. Jaywin decided that, obviously, especially if he was possibly going home this week, why not finish off the drinking game himself? Yuzu, tamarind, and coconut cake. Look, the thing I'm going to miss the most about Jaywin is his ability to take out an entire game card on his own. There was Musha as well. Like, he just hit everything. There was a yuzu mousse and a chocolate coconut at the top, and he did talk about the fact that he'd struggled so far, but it was time to weave it all in the past. Jaywin should be keel-hauled for that one. They then cut to Hoda, who was talking up her spiced pumpkin cake, and I was just waiting for them to go, so what's in there? And she's like, blood.
And if she hadn't have heard herself, the first thing that would have come to my mind is pumpkin spice,
pumpkin. It was a pumpkin spice latte in a cake form, but there was blood. So, pumpkin buttercream, star anise, and fondant pumpkins. Now, star anise became the controversial bit, because rather than using it as a flavour, she was using star anise to top the cake.
Okay, I'm going to jump forward, because here we are. Matt goes, oh, you can't eat star anise. I'm like, well, you can. It's just not pleasant. Like, it's very star anise.
I like that you're picking up on the semantics of Matt there going, you can't. It's like, don't
put anything on the cake you can't eat. And it's like, people put candles on birthday cakes all the time. People put fresh flowers on birthday cakes and wedding cakes and stuff. Like, there are inedible things on cakes. You can pull it off. It's not like I'm a 4-year-old at a Chinese restaurant for the first time having a prawn cutlet and no one told me not to eat the tail. So I like the crunchy bit, apparently.
There are places where they do just eat the tail too.
Yeah, like teppanyaki. Like, that's the best thing, is when they cook the prawn shells and they go all crunchy. That's why I think the cooked cicadas and the cooked crickets would be delicious. Back at the ranch.
So Ella cracked a coconut.
She's so proud.
Have you ever seen anyone more proud?
Like, you know what's next for Ella? Survivor. She's like, look, I'm going there not because I want to win. I just want to crack coconuts.
I love that she's yelling out to anyone else got a coconut or anything else. They split in half. I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood.
She's going to jump off the pontoon to go to the island, and the only thing she's going to have bought is a cleaver because she just wants to crack coconuts.
What I really enjoyed too, I say enjoyed, but what I mean to say is that she missed a trick. So she went with the eyes, and she was doing the big bug eyes. Mm-hmm. Now, week 1, what did you make, Ella?
Boobies.
Thank you. Right, again, this is the perfect time to recreate Gilligan's Island.
Exactly. Like, it's the first thing you do with coconut halves, isn't it? Just
boobs.
Pop them on your boobs?
No, the first thing I do with coconut halves is clap them together.
Oh, yeah.
But that's because I watch a lot of Monty Python. So, exactly. I did once for a class on April Fool's Day. Mm-hmm. We were doing medieval Europe, and I put together an entire document called the Lord's Enclosed Land Act, which was all about lords complaining that knights were gallivanting around the countryside and chopping up the fields. And so the lords suggested that they needed to take the nut of the cocos tree and cleft it in twain, and then clap it together to give the appearance of riding. And the kids got all the way through the activity before a couple of them worked it out. One of my proudest education moments, I think.
Misinformation is always good information.
Yeah. So let's go to Nerman with his rhubarb cake. Now, he called it the rhubarb cake. Now, as we know...
Oh, that's what you say when you're in the background.
If you're background acting Rhubarb is what you are supposed to say.
If you find yourself on Australian TV in the diner on Home and Away...
Well, it's going to be Home and Away because there's no Neighbours anymore.
Oh, is it there?
No, it got cancelled.
What?
Yeah, that was a big thing a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, what will Dr. Carl do?
Go support Liverpool. Anyway, no, he is a massive Liverpool fan.
Oh, that's all right.
But... Yeah, so rhubarb is what you're supposed to say as a background actor to make it look like you're having a conversation. They stand in the background and go, rhubarb. And it's supposed to make it look like you're talking.
Oh, great.
So,
I don't know if I do rhubarb or if I just try another vegetable just to...
You just say felching.
Say felching. No, then it looks like I'm just saying fuck off.
I mean, you kind of are. Anyway...
I may as well just say fuck off then.
Raspberry ripple cake and a rhubarb weave now, and rhubarb curd in the middle. Now, this is the only person who actually decided to do a weave. And Matt Moran's level of joy and respect went up as this went on until we got to the judging where I thought Matt Moran was going to like jump over the top of the Gingham altar and like chair Nerman from the building.
It was spectacular.
So...
The grit and determination, and he made it look effortless.
Except for the mandolining, he made that look really hard because he got very, very, very low to the bench to mandolin.
Did your nicked knuckles start to tingle at that point?
It did. My knuckle that I chopped on a mandolin.
I did like yell out, "Oh my god! There's no guard! There's
you
no
yelled that
guard!"
out. Austenite tweeted out at the same time. All I'm thinking is, "Where's the guard, Nerman?" But he was feeding the rhubarb through, and they all got really low, and they're like, "Does this help? Does this angle help?" And they're like, and that's why Mel looked at me and go, on the plus side, your quads are going to be amazing.
You know why? Because no one got low.
Anyway.
The rhubarb platter jeans.
Cake made of raspberry. Anyway. Yeah. Ella. Now, Ella was making a pina colada cake, but with a toy basket. So there's your play school moment. We were wondering, I was worried for her. The bakes had been remarkably adult.
I feel that this week, as part of her audition, she's like, okay, that's what I'd be like on screen. You want to see what I'd be like as a colleague? Here I am, cooking good pies, bringing you what looks like toys, but is actually booze.
Lots of booze in the bake.
Yeah.
Now, my biggest disappointment of this, we actually talked the other day about the idea of the fact
that's how she gets her kids to bed.
So it was coconut cake, pineapple mint jam, and rum. Lots and lots of rum. Now, Rupert Holmes was there. We mentioned it the other week. Rupert Holmes and them all singing Pina Coladas, the Escape song.
Yeah.
Now, Matt and Claire got the lyrics wrong.
Don't take walks in the rain. I mean, you can take walks in the
rain.
No. That's not the lyrics.
It's getting caught in the rain. Caught, not walks in the rain.
No. Because it's walks on the beach. Now, what's that like?
Do you like pina coladas or getting caught in the rain? Are you not into health food? If you have half a brain, if you love making love at midnight and the dunes, there's no
walking. No walking. It's fucking on sand, which,
I love that version of the song.
Look,
do you like fucking on the sand?
If they say yes, I would take umbrage because I'd be like, sandpaper, people. Sand gets everywhere at the beach, and it's just a no from me. Everything else sounds lovely. The sand...
Not so much.
No.
Can I just point out at this point, why are they not marketing that Bakeoff jigsaw?
Oh. Can we?
Market it. Foxtel, look, not to put too fine a point on it.
But we want that.
You need some revenue.
Yeah.
Jigsaws.
My nephew's heavily into jigsaws at the moment. I'm quite impressed. He's 4 years old and doing quite complex
Imagine
jigsaws.
the joy you'd feel if you assemble Matt's head. It's the most joy a bald skull can bring.
I want a jigsaw now that's just purely balding Matt's head. Like it's like those, the Impossible puzzles that's like all baked beans.
Oh, that could be fun.
Just Matt's balding head.
Now at this point, Hoda's like, I am behind by 10 minutes, but to be fair, she did almost, lose a hand.
Yes. I'm surprised, it was only 10 minutes.
Now, I was looking for lines that I feel sum Aaron up, and I think I found it. That's the go, that's the feel, that's the jam, I need a spatula. It's the flow. So you've got that calm flow of, that's the go, that's the feel, that's the jam, and then just keep going with the, I need a spatula. Don't break for that.
No.
Don't stop and look around.
No.
Just keep it going.
Beautiful.
Don't stop the music. I love Nerman as well. He had a moment of doubt where he's like, I don't know why I decided to do this. And then he paused and he goes, yes, I do. I want to be different. Good.
Yep.
Like that. Now, I love that Claire came over and she's like, now, Jaywin, obviously, you've had a bit of a struggle here. Now, why don't you make a bit of a sensible decision and do one of those good showstoppers that you do?
That's brilliant. Great suggestion there, Claire. And, I think...
Jaywin's like, I haven't thought about that shit.
No, it's not obvious at all. And I'm really glad she took the time to point it out.
Hoda had also been really worried at this point in time about that big cake that she had. And she wasn't sure if it was going to cook properly or not. And again, as it turned out, it didn't. But when she decided that it was done, she did nearly throw it. She pulls it out of the oven and got the arm sweep and you saw the cake just get momentum.
Oh, yes. I honestly feel that if it was cooked through, the momentum would have kept going, whereas she had the kind of like...
The liquid
moved in the cake and just stopped it. Just
probably.
Pulled it back, yeah.
Now Jaywin's cream was unfortunately running because of the heat, which is, a bit sad. Now everyone was weaving in buttercream, and by the way, it looked impressive. We're not saying that it's not impressive. On the contrary, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
But Nerman thatched rhubarb.
He thatched a thicket to his jacksie.
He thatched rhubarb.
I'd like to think that he's going to go into rhubarb thatching as a profession. Like, just leave the doctoring behind and go into just rhubarb thatching. He knocking on cottage doors, going, "Hello, good sir. Do you need your rhubarb thatched?"
"Hello, goodly sir. Would you like me to thatch you some rhubarb?" So the judge...
yes, I was just noticing that my rhubarb thatch was not looking as spiffy as it used to.
Yes, my rhubarb roof seems to have been eaten by the birds. Maybe it's a problem.
Rhubarb.
Maybe it's a problem with my use of rhubarb and not a building material. Anyway, judgment. So Ella, they said it looked amazing. The detail was excellent, moist, but it had body. The buttercream was not over the top, and the pineapple jam in particular was quite brilliant. Hoda, Matt threw his little star anise tantrum. The cake, they said, was doughy. I would say that's generous. I thought the cake was liquid in the middle. The spices, however, were well balanced. Aaron, the weave looked great, and they said it was a very well-loved basket. The layers were even. The fruit flavours were very clean, and they said the acid balanced the butter very well. Maggie was in particular taken with the Pims and did ask where a glass was.
I'm with Maggie,
You can't threaten Pims and not offer her a glass.
It's a nice sunny day out. Like, come on, break out the strawberries and mint and away we go.
Jaywin. Good weave. The cake, however, did have a slight lean to it. It was tilted. The cake was very light. The tamarind wasn't too heavy. It also wasn't dominant. They wanted a little bit more of it. They said the cake was light and beautiful, though, and the buttercream was very good. Nerman. Now... Maggie loved the work on the rhubarb, and Matt was just thoroughly impressed by the weave. The cake was incredibly moist. The acidity was perfect. Matt loved the balance and said that they were the two of the nicest cakes that he has had in the whole season.
Wow, that is high praise indeed.
It was a great week of baking, and it's one of those ones we talk about all the time where if you're going to go home in a week, you want to go home in the week where the baking's good.
Yeah.
So Ella is star baker. It was close, but it's the right call. Again, the technical puts it over the line.
Yep.
Nerman had a very good late charge with that showstopper, though. And unfortunately, it was really close towards the end with Hoda, but Hoda's first bake was really good.
Yeah.
And that's probably the thing that saved her in the end, which means that unfortunately, Jaywin goes home.
Yeah.
He departs with the respect of the pun world.
Look, he might not have won Bakeoff in the cake sense, but in the pun sense, he is champion.
He didn't.
And
He may not have won Bakeoff, but he certainly did pun Bakeoff. Thank you.
Beautifully done,
Oh,
love.
thank you very much. It was a strong episode.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very strong episode. I thought, again, I didn't expect a lot out of Fruit and Veg Week. I was pleasantly surprised.
Maybe it was that kind of like under-promise, over-deliver kind of strategy.
Very much.
Fruit and Veg.
Actually ended up quite well. So, next week is semi-final week.
It is. I can't believe, like, okay, we've been on a journey, but wow, we're here already. It always feels like it comes around too fast.
Now,
too soon, Reese.
Now, we're going to sort of, obviously, we're back next week to talk about that. We are going to start getting back to the interviews again as well. They're coming. They're all coming. We've got a backlog now. So, obviously, the last couple of weeks for everyone have been a bit hectic. If you're especially on the east coast of Australia, it's been a bit hectic. So everyone's getting back to a bit of normality. So we'll normal service with those, but will be resumed. But as we said, our priority is making sure we get these episodes out to you. This is our bread and butter, and this is what we do.
Yep.
So thank you, everyone, for the feedback. If you like the episode, please share them around. It always makes a bit of a difference so that more people can get to hear it.
Yes. Because, you know, they need to know that we have a sealed section this time. Maybe that'll bring in the punters.
Sealed section will drag in the punters.
Yeah.
So, until semi-final week, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
Oh, thanks a lot, Jaywin. I'm sorry you had to weave.